Good morning. Welcome to QX Church. Find us online at qxchurch.org. Of course, I'm Pastor Scott Conway, and we are doing a 3-lesson arc on resolution, on resolving temptation, resolving coveting, and resolving envy. So temptation, coveting, and envy. Today, of course, is temptation. Now, the first thing to know about temptation is there's no wrong in being tempted. It is amazing over the decades how often people seem to be incredibly troubled by the fact that they are tempted by something, by the fact that they struggle with something. There's no wrong in being tempted. Jesus was tempted by the devil. That's Luke 4:2. If you want to go look up the story of Jesus in the wilderness, when he's spending his 40 days in the desert, the temptations of the devil. Now, one interpretation is the devil was engaging in the action of attempting to tempt Jesus. And one of the interpretations is that while the devil was tempting Jesus, that Jesus didn't actually feel any temptation. But Hebrews 4:15 tells us that Jesus was tempted in every way. Now, the implication there is pretty clear. He was actually tempted in every way during his life. It is in his humanity that Jesus relates to us and is related to by us. It's because Jesus lives a life where he knows what we feel like. The difference is he overcame temptation. The difference is when he had that emotional prompt, that biological prompt, that biological desire, that chemical reaction, that emotional response, that he always responded to it perfectly. Now, we're not going to be perfect, of course. We will fall to temptation from time to time. But what this does mean, though, is we need an understanding of temptation that is in line with the fact that Jesus was tempted. That means we need a definition of temptation that is in line with the fact you can be tempted and still be perfect. So here's what we use. We're going to build it up in 2 steps. We'll start with desire, and then we'll go from desire to temptation. Desire is I want something. Desire is neutral. You can have a desire for good things. You can have a desire for bad things. You can have aspirations. You can have goals or wants of any kind. You can have conflicting desires where you can want 2 different things. You can want to sleep in, but you can also want to work out. You can want to have a slim, trim, healthy body. You can also want to eat the buffet every day. Sometimes we have conflicting desires. Temptation specifically is I desire something that would be wrong to have. I desire something. So it's just a desire. The difference is temptation is when the desire you have is for something that would be wrong to have. Where you have decided that this is bad. Now, it may be you've decided that something's bad because you believe the Bible teaches it's bad, or you believe the law teaches it's bad. But you may have decided something's bad for you because you're on a diet. Today's not one of your cheat days. Today you're not supposed to have the cheesecake even though you're here at Cheesecake Factory. Or you're trying to eat particularly clean because you have an event coming up and you want to be in your best shape, or you need to make weight for a competition and you have opportunities for buffets and you decide, okay, well, because of what I'm trying to do, this is incongruent with my goal, and so therefore for me right now this is wrong because it's doing the opposite of what I have chosen to do. So temptation, a desire for something that would be wrong to have. We're not necessarily talking about a deep moral wrong, but of course everything that is a moral wrong would be included in here. So you can think of it also this way. Temptation is when your emotions desire something your will knows is wrong. That your will knows you should not have. That you want what you should not have. Now, the thing itself is just something you should not have. It can be as morality-free as wanting to break your diet. It can be as intensely immoral as desiring something you should not have, such as something that belongs to someone else, that you want to steal something. This can be separate from wrong means. Now, right now in the news, there's news of people being killed. Right now in the news, there's a failed coup in Turkey. Right now in the news, there's shootings of police officers in Dallas. There's shootings of police officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We've had killings of people by police in Louisiana and Minnesota on back-to-back days in recent history. We've had mass shootings in Orlando. These people had a desire. They had a desire to do something violent, to do something deadly. And they acted on it. They acted on the magnitude of negative desire to go out and try to kill people and succeed. Now, this desire for wrong things is separate from wrong means. You want something by wrong means can be a temptation. Maybe the thing itself is okay, but it can include bad means such as stealing to get something, lying to get something. The thing itself may even be good. The thing you're going to lie and steal to get could be a good thing. It may also be neutral. It could be wrong. If you want a wrong thing and you're willing to use wrong means to get it, well, it could be a double temptation, that you really want to do things that are wrong and get to them in the wrong way. Another level of temptation, or type of temptation, and this might be perhaps one of the most common for us, is being tempted to say something you should not say or to do something you should not do. It's often driven by emotion. We feel angry, so we want to use verbal force or physical force. We feel fear, so we want to hide, quit, or otherwise be irresponsible and not do the things that are ours to do. We feel hopelessness, so we want to quit. We feel all three, so we take it out on others while we're hiding from responsibilities and we want to quit. All of these can stack up on us. Negative emotions mean something must change. But that self-protection reaction can get to us, where we act just to protect ourselves. We act on that initial emotional prompt. And we forget that there's this gap between stimulus and response. That we are not machines, we are not animals. There's this place that we can insert ourselves, we can insert our values, we can insert our civility, the fact that we are civilized beings, we can insert our maturity, we can insert our wisdom. All of these opportunities we have as human beings to expand that gap between stimulus and response and stick stuff in there on purpose because we're people. And we can stick any number of things in there. Any combination of our identity, our values, our maturity, our theology, our philosophy, even just our logic and our thinking, our love for somebody else, our sense of responsibility, anything we can put in there to make good decisions. But very often we are driven by emotion. We endure temptation. That's a normal part of life. Temptation is something we're supposed to endure. James 1:12 tells us this. James 1:12 tells us that if you endure temptation, you will be blessed. Now, the word for endure here means that you tarry behind and remain. That there's a temptation here, and you stick it out. Now, there's a contrasting principle connected to this, but we don't run from temptation. We don't flee temptation. We are told to flee immorality. 1 Corinthians 6:18, if you want to find that. 1 Corinthians 6:18 is to flee immorality, not to flee temptation, to flee immorality. Now, some translations will occasionally interpret the concept as to flee temptation. But it's a particular type of temptation you're fleeing. It's when you've gone over the edge. You're no longer just desiring that which you know you shouldn't have. Now you're ready to act on it. Now you're ready to do the thing you know you shouldn't do. Now you're ready to use the means you know you shouldn't use. You're ready to say what you shouldn't say. You're ready to engage in some action you know you ought not to do. And you know you're going to fall. So when you know that the wrong thing is coming, now when you know you're right there, that's when it's time to flee. We flee when we know we have pre-fallen. When we know we're already lusting, and we're going to get into lust in just a moment. That we already would do the thing given the opportunity. Now with kids, one of the things I tell kids is suppose, right now the brand new game is Pokemon Go, and so this is done on tablet and phone devices. And so suppose I don't have an iPad, but I really, really want to play this game. And I really, really would steal an iPad in order to go play this game. In the past, I've used Xbox as an example, PlayStations as examples. But you're willing to steal it, but you show up, and you can't. Being watched. You know you're going to get caught. But what if you wouldn't get caught? What if you know you wouldn't get caught? What if you know how to get away with it? And you know if you had the chance, you'd do it. Well, what do? You flee immorality. You stay away from it. You flee immorality that when you know you would, stay away or get away. When you know you would if you could, make sure you can't. Now, I try to use this as a general principle. This is kind of how I do a lot of things in my life. Some of this comes from martial arts. When I know I'm likely to say something I should not say, I get distance. I end conversations. I leave rooms. I get off the phone. I get off of social media. I stop texting. I stop messaging. Whatever the means of communication is, when I know I'm riled up. When I know that the thoughts I'm thinking in my head of the words I'm going to say, when the emotional intent behind the words, even if I believe I might be able to watch my vocabulary, that I can tell that I've got this harsh emotional bite. I know I need distance. I need that break. I need that pause. I need breathing space where I can just have that moment to take a breath so that I make sure, as best as possible, that before I open my mouth, before I hit send, before I even type up the email or type up the message, that I have a chance to clear my head and look at it when I don't want to be hurtful, to look at it when I'm not angry, to look at it when I'm not scared, to look at it when I'm not feeling hopeless, and to be able to think about it from a more principled level, to think about it from a more logical point of view, to look at it in context with the bigger picture, in context with the relationships that I want to have, build, or maintain, with the public persona that I want to have out there. Because most of us don't want to put out there us at our worst. We want to put out the us at our best, or at least us at our neutral. Imagine in this day and age of social media that if any given moment you're in public, if any given moment you're posting anything online, it can be remembered forever whether you delete it or not. And in fact, some people are finding this out. Now, frankly, I think it's unfair. When someone posts one tweet or someone posts one status, and that one status or one tweet or one comment goes viral and costs them their job. But that's part of the world that we live in. You say the internet is forever. And so it's bad enough when we say something to someone we want a relationship with that does damage to that relationship, and we've said it verbally, and now it's lodged in their memory forever. When we do something online, we've typed it, we've sent it, we've texted it, we've messaged it, we've posted it, we've tweeted it. The photographs are there, the video is there, the audio is there, whatever the means by which it has been documented can then be memorialized forever. And so we have to be aware of such things. But the interesting thing about it is even when it's not being documented, the people who bear witness to it were there. It's an event in their history now. It's part of how they perceive us. This is one of the variables now in the equation for them to consider as they get to know us. And so these are things that we need to be aware of. Now, the disadvantage of memory, it's not always accurate. If I do something to you and it's an intensely emotional time and both of us are emotional, I don't know how you're going to remember it. I don't know if you're going to remember your part, and you might just remember my part. I don't know how you're going to interpret my part. Have you ever had a kid come tell you that someone's picking on them or someone did something to them? And this is what we call a saint story. So say little Bobby shows up to you and says, Jimmy's picking on me, he pushed me down, and he called me a bad name. And as the story unfolds, you have the story of Saint Bobby and the evil and demoniac Jimmy. But then when you talk to Jimmy, you get the story of Saint Jimmy, the holy and righteous one of God, who never did anything wrong. But the evil and demonic, devilish Bobby did all these nasty things. We call these saint stories. Now think about this though. How often do you suppose these kids actually remember it that way? They are oblivious to their participation in what went down. That is a very mutual thing, and they both stair-step escalated it together. But Bobby only remembers what Jimmy did wrong. And Jimmy only remembers what Bobby did wrong. And Jimmy and Bobby are forever angry at each other because they don't perceive their own wrong. They only perceive the other person's wrong. If you ask them, well, what did you do? Sometimes they don't even know. Or if they know what they did, they have a reason for it. Well, all I did was, all I was saying was, basically, it's not my fault. It's all Jimmy's fault. Not my fault. It's all Bobby's fault. And so when you have memory telling you what happened, when someone is emotionally involved in a situation, that emotion is going to cloud the memory as much as it clouds the judgment. So how you remember it might not be the same as how the other person remembers it. Typically, the one who is the most emotionally detached from the situation is more likely to have the clearer recollection of the actual facts. The one who is most intensely emotionally engaged in the situation is more likely to remember what they felt and what contributed to those feelings. At least when someone has video of what went down, the video is going to show you from the time record was hit to stop was hit, that's what actually went down. What you posted is actually what you posted. What you tweeted is actually what you tweeted. But when something only exists in someone's memory, you really can't be sure. So when I know I'm likely to say something I should not say, I get distance. Now, is it always possible? No, it's not always possible. Do you always catch yourself in time? No, you don't always catch yourself in time. But at least if you have it as a policy, at least if you have it as a target, you know when you feel that roiling up inside of you that to whatever extent you can, get distance, physical distance if you can. Take your hands off of the keyboard. Close the computer. Don't even type it. Wait until you calm down before you respond to that email. If you feel the emotions rolling up and you're on the phone and you go, okay, I'm I'm going to say stuff I really shouldn't say. I need to get off of this call. Get off of the call before you start to get into things you really don't want to have part of this conversation. When I know I'm likely to do something I should not do, I get distance. When I feel that my emotions might get the best of me and take me further down a path than I choose for myself, I get distance. If I already have distance, I maintain distance. If I need distance, I get distance. It's a fairly simple principle. And you always try. It's always your target. You may not always succeed. Using a martial arts metaphor, if I know I'm in trouble in this match, if I know I'm getting angry with you and I just want to pluck you upside the head, and I know I shouldn't, I need to call the match. Now, what if I don't have the authority to call the match? Am I then stuck in a match where I'm starting to really want to hurt somebody? Well, I need to stop and just defend. So if I'm in a grappling match and someone does something that gets me upset, and I just really want to just choke them out, hit them, do something that I shouldn't do, I need to break the match. I may need to tap out. Even though they haven't done anything to tap me out, I may need to tap out. Not because I'm being physically submitted, but because I am being emotionally submitted by me, of me. That who I'm supposed to be on the mat, who I'm supposed to be in the match, is losing his grip and is about to do something he shouldn't do. And I need to tap out, not because I physically lost control from what they're physically doing to me, but I am emotionally losing control and I need to stop. It might seem bizarre. I might even seem like I'm winning, and suddenly I tap out. Well, it's because physically I might be winning, but emotionally I might be losing. Emotionally I might be about to cross a line I shouldn't cross. Because I don't want to hurt anybody. This is one of the reasons why for us, anybody in a match has a right to call the match. The instructor can call a match. Either one of the competitors can call the match. They can tap out. They can call timeout. They can yame their own match or stop their own match. And attention, bow, embrace, and they're done. Anyone's allowed to stop it. Because we're looking for safety. Not just physical safety, although that's key, but also the emotional safety. And not just safety for the person who's calling the match, but also safety for the other person. If I know I'm having a bad day and something happens in the match, you may not even have done anything wrong. But I'm already a little ticked off today. And I thought that having a good match might kind of help me release some steam, but then something happens. Maybe it's an accidentally, I run into a punch. You were doing it fine, but I ran into it. I got hit. Now I'm hurt. Now I'm mad. I just want to just plow into you. Well, I need to stop. I just need to stop before I hurt somebody. Same thing with words. When I know it's there, when I know I want to hit you with some nasty words, I want to say some nasty things to you. I want to say some judgmental things, some condemning things, some things that if you believe the words that come out of my mouth, if you respect me enough to trust my words, that what I'm about to say would do violence to our relationship, I need to stop. Now, one of the perhaps fortunate things is that, unfortunately perhaps, but fortunately in many cases, we don't have enough respect of one another to trust their words. Especially when people get emotional, we tend to just sort of dismiss it. We really don't have that level of respect for people's words. And we also often don't have that level of respect for our own words. We just say whatever we're going to say, they say whatever they're going to say, and we just mostly ignore it and go on about our business with our own agendas. Sometimes that serves us. A lot of times it doesn't, but sometimes it does. But what if the other person does respect our words? We need to be careful about what we say. And when we say what we shouldn't say, we do what we shouldn't do, we very often owe an apology to retract our words as quickly as possible. So in this whole temptation thing, what's lust? Lust is when temptation has risen up to the level that you have decided in your will or emotionally reached the point where I would if I could. So lust is I would if I could. Matthew 5:28 is often interpreted as a man looking at a woman with desire is equal to adultery. I don't believe that's true. Imagine if it is equal to adultery to look at someone and go, wow, she's beautiful. And I've heard people say, that's adultery. Okay, well that's a false equivalent, so let's not go there. It doesn't match up with our definitions for sure. It creates a false equivalent that has too often led to bad outcomes. Now, here's part of the thing with this false equivalency thing. I actually heard a teaching that said that watching a PG-13 movie was the equivalent of having sex with a deacon's daughter in the backseat of the car. And I thought, okay, well, there's no way that's right. Well, this teaching was in writing, written down by this person, published by this person, and I looked it up, and it was this huge nationwide ministry. And I looked it up to make sure, and that's what they said. They said that watching a PG-13 movie was the moral equivalent of having sex in the backseat of the car. What the deacon's daughter had to do with it, I wasn't really sure. Now think about this for a second. You're sitting around and you're going, well, I don't think PG-13 movies are that big a deal. If PG-13 movies really aren't that big of a deal, and a PG-13 movie is equal to having sex in the backseat of a car, then therefore, logically, having sex in the backseat of the car also must not be that big of a deal because these things are morally equal. So that's one of the big problems with creating this moral equivalency thing. Is if we say, well, this thing is as bad as that thing. And you go, okay, well, but I don't really think this thing's all that bad. So if this thing's equal to that thing, then that thing must not be all that bad either. So if I really think this is okay, then therefore by extension, I must obviously think that thing must be okay. So we have to be careful how we do this moral equivalency thing. So, and this one was bad. So there was a married pastor and a married parishioner. And the married parishioner woman came to her married pastor man and was seeking counseling, and quite rightly so, and the relationship kind of progressed, perfectly appropriately for a while. But over the course of time, temptation began to arise. Well, theologically, in this particular church, and maybe in the denomination, I don't really know, they had this idea that lust equals adultery. Once you've thought it, it equals doing it, and so therefore doing it is no worse than thinking it. And both of them got to a place in their relationship where they both admitted the mutual temptation, which therefore was equal to lust, equal to actually doing it. And so if they were already guilty anyway, as soon as they had the thought, well, they may as well do it. And they did. And this relationship went on for a while because of this moral equivalency thing. So we don't play that game. You have to be careful about that. So the verse talks about intentionally looking upon a woman for the purpose of lusting after her. Now the idea here is you are engaging in lust of the heart, which is qualitatively different than actually doing it. Now what's great about this particular example is it's talking about sex. If you think about sex, you're guilty of the thought. You're guilty of I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. The reason you don't is because the opportunity never arises. Who can get pregnant? Nobody. What new bloodline can start? None. What diseases could be passed along? None. Is there a qualitative difference between the lust and the act? Obviously. So the verse talks about intentionally looking upon a woman, a wife in particular, for the purpose of I would if I could. if we had a chance, if she would say yes, and we had opportunity, oh, I would in a heartbeat. That's lust. James 1:15 tells us that when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin. So lust plus opportunity equals sinful action. Remember, sin just means missing the mark. So it doesn't necessarily have to be some kind of egregious sin. It just means you have a mark that you're aiming for. Your bullseye is what you're aiming at. And we might have any number of targets in all areas of life. And we miss. That's sin. Now we may miss because we have this intensely moral mark we're aiming for. But we may miss on something as simple as a diet decision. We may have relationship targets that we're aiming at. This is how I want to do the relationship, and you miss the mark. You may have a work target, something you intend to do with work, and you miss that mark. Spirituality targets, exercise targets, diet targets, etc. Whatever your target is, a miss is a miss. It means you were aiming at something, and you missed your mark. Now, hopefully, when it's an intensely moral issue, all of you have that morality as your bullseye. But there's a whole bunch of other types of targets we could aim at, and when we miss those marks, it's kind of a similar thing at a principle level, not a moral level, at a principle level. When we do what we choose, we hit our target. Of course, we should choose our target spiritually. Others, principles, religion, God. And then we seek to hit those targets. But what if you're really not good at this yet? Not structural protections. You use structural protections to defend against lust. Now, what's a structural protection? So when you know you would if you could, you have to build some kind of a structural solution, some system, some policy, some way of protecting yourself so you won't because you can't. Now this is part of where legalism comes in. So if someone's an alcoholic and they know that as an alcoholic there's no such thing as just one drink. One drink means two drinks means six drinks means I just keep going until I've run out of money and I can't get any more, or I'm so blitz drunk that I can't even manage to drink anymore. And they know I can't even have one. That you build a structure to protect yourself from one. Is there anything wrong with having one beer? We don't think so. Is there anything wrong with drinking wine at a wedding that Jesus just made? No. Jesus just made it, right? Wedding at Cana. But what if you know you can't stop? Then your place you have to protect yourself is at one. What if you know that you have this mutual spark between you and somebody else and you know you can't follow up on it? That you build a protection so the two of you aren't alone together in any kind of situation where it is remotely possible to take action on that. It's a great short-term solution. However, if you use it as a permanent solution, especially that's your permanent solution on a regular basis, it allows someone to remain weak in that area. It allows you to indulge in the temptation. It allows you to indulge in the lust, to fantasize about the I would if I could, to fantasize about the temptation. That is, well, I can't do it anyway, and so a lot of people give themselves permission to go there emotionally, to go there in their heart, because they know I've got this thing that stops me from doing the actual action. Well, that's not necessarily an okay thing. In that situation, success depends upon perpetually being able to avoid opportunity. Could be as simple a thing as, I'm on a diet. Most things I can resist, but boy, you get too many Reese's peanut butter cups around me, I'm going to eat those things. But right now I need to cut weight for whatever my goal reasons might be, and I just can't have those in my kitchen. I can't have those in my pantry. I need to keep them away from me because I know I'm going to have them. Is that a pretty good short-term solution? Sure. And what if someone gives them to me as a gift? What if I go to a friend's house and they got a bunch of snacks, and amongst the snacks are the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and oh, I saved these for you because I know how much you like them. And the only reason I'm not having them is because I'm hiding from them. And well, now there they are. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to have them. It's easy enough to get that on something as morality-free as having one of my favorite candies. But the same thing applies for a lot of other temptations. If opportunity arises, then the fall to sinful action is predetermined. The fall to missing your mark is predetermined because you have relied upon the structure to protect you. It puts you in a position where you might even cultivate the lust until you are tempted to create an opportunity. I'm going to spend a moment there. It's not in your notes. A lot of opportunities don't necessarily arise spontaneously. But boy, can they be easy to make. It might be unlikely. We'll stick to the morality-free example. It might be fairly easy for me to avoid having the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups when I know that I'm on my 6 days of strict diet during any given week. But how easy is it for me to go buy some? When someone gives me something, how easy is it for me to kind of put that next to my computer so I can munch on that later? How inexpensive is it? And I had this kind of weird feeling one time. Every once in a while I kind of get this thing where I want the white chocolate ones. I don't run across them often enough to really have it be a problem. But there's one particular night thinking, you know, white chocolate Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Now some people I know don't like them. That might be part of it because then I know if I have them, no one else is going to eat them. And I happen to be at the store and I'm looking at this sale on white chocolate Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. So if I wanted to create the opportunity to succumb to my temptation, to succumb to my lust for the candy, in direct opposition to the particular diet I was on at that time, it was very inexpensive to do so. I was already at the store. It was such a nominal amount of money, it would have been inconsequential to the grocery bill. All I would have had to do to create the opportunity to succumb to the temptation is reach up with my left hand, put it in the basket. And the rest would be a foregone conclusion. My point of defense was right there. Sometimes when you've indulged in the temptation, when you have indulged in the lust, you start to get tempted not just to do the thing, you get tempted to create the opportunity to do the thing. Because you know you won't say no. Because you know the answer is already oh yes. But you know, I'm on a diet, but what's wrong with just having some at the house? Nothing. Other than the fact what I know I'm really doing is I'm creating the opportunity to indulge in the lust because I know I would if I could, and I'm building the I can so I will. And it's the same thing in any other temptation. How much are you building or maintaining the I can, knowing that you will? Now, one of the things for me, and I've had conversations about this with women I've been involved with in the past, is if I walk away, let me. But I've had relationships where I said, like, look, I need time. I'm taking a break. And she follows me. She won't let me out of the conversation. she insists upon pushing it and won't let it go. Well, why am I leaving? I'm leaving so I don't say things I shouldn't say. And what's she doing? She's not letting me leave. And so therefore, what's very likely to happen? Those things I shouldn't say could get said. And some of the things, once I say them, there is no taking them back. There are certain things you just do not say. Because once you have said them, they're forever said. There was a comedy piece, and the particular piece that got said is, "You're just like your mother." Well, sometimes those can be words you can never take back. Or a woman who says to her husband, who has an incredibly toxic father, "You're just like your father." She might never be able to take those words back. If she doesn't suck those words right back, right here, right now, those might never be able to be taken back. I mean, if she looks and says, "You're just like your father," oh my God, I don't believe I said that. I'm sorry, that is so not true. I got so caught up in my anger that I just wanted to hurt you. And that was the meanest thing I could think of to say, but it's not true. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's not true. If you can catch it fast enough before it emotionally impacts the person, if you can catch it fast enough so that they realize, even in their heart, you really didn't mean it, you might have a chance to recover from that. But boy, had you better be fast, passionate, and sincere. If you say something like that and he sleeps on it, you might not be able to come back to that in a day, a week, a month, a year. Had one woman tell his wife, or tell her husband, I don't have a lot of friends. Almost all of my friends are also your friends. Who do I have to talk to tell them that my husband's being an a-hole? Well, that would come up every once in a while where he didn't mind it from time to time. She thought he was being a jerk. I mean, he knows that's part of the normal ebb and flow of relationship. He had been with me long enough by then to understand, stuff goes like that. I've been training him for a while. Hadn't been training her as long. So he realized. And from time to time, when she had a chance to go see some people that were her friends that he didn't really know, he said, "Well, you can go see them. And I know that, there's a few areas in our relationship that are rocky. That's someone you can talk to and tell them that your husband's an a-hole. That's okay with me." Well, this went on for months, and it only came up like a few times. But then after about 6 months, she says, "I don't think you're an a-hole. I never did." So, why'd you bring it up, a year ago, however long ago it was when it came up? I actually don't recall. And then you just left it all this time. If you said it, and it keeps coming up, and you really don't believe it, the time to have retracted it was when you said it. Or within about 24 hours of when you said it. Or at least when it came up the next time. Or the time after that. Wait 6 months, 8 months, however long it was, and then say, "Oh, that thing I said a year ago, I don't really mean." So you have to be careful about stuff like this. So lust plus opportunity equals sinful action. When you have the "I would if I could" and you can, then you will. That's what lust is. I would if I could. So if you can, you will. Lust plus opportunity equals sinful action. Now, when you have lust plus opportunity, and you know that sinful action is coming, we call that immorality. You know it's coming. It's right there. You are on your way. Look for the escape hatch. There will always be an escape hatch. Doesn't mean you're going to actually use it, but there will be a way out. 1 Corinthians 10:13 tells us, when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. So you can stay while it's a temptation. You can stay while you're still hanging on. But when you realize, this isn't going to work. My emotions are running too strong. My desire is running too strong. My fear, my anger, my hopelessness, whatever it is running too strong. My willpower is weakening. Willpower. I will stick to what is right, no matter what I feel. But my stick-to-itness of the right is beginning to fingertip time, white knuckling time, and no matter what I feel, that feeling is getting stronger. I need distance. I need to get out. 1 Corinthians 10:13 tells you there will be a way out. You will always find a way to escape if you look. You have to endure the temptation and be able to walk away. To have the opportunity and walk away from the opportunity before you would if you could, and you can, so you will. You might even be at that less place now where you would if you could, and you can. I need to get out of here because I will. That escape hatch will be there. That means you cannot have fully succumbed to the lust, because if you did, you would if you could. So when you can, you will. Maybe you would if you could, and you can. And before you will, you leave. When temptation is getting too strong for you, you can always walk away. Doesn't mean you will walk away, but there will be a way to. There will be a way to stop. There may not be a way for you to catch yourself and say no, but there may be a way for you to tap out. There may not be a way for you to control yourself if you stay in, but there may be a way to just tap out. There may not be a way for you to stop yourself from hitting someone if you stay in this fight, but there might be a way to call the fight, back off. There might not be a way for you to say no at that moment of temptation to avoid crossing whatever that line is for you, but there will be a way to escape. There will be a way to get distance, to walk away, to lean on someone or something else, to use the structural solution, which is such a great short-term answer, so that you don't do the things you shouldn't do, so that you don't say the things you shouldn't say, so that you don't cross those lines you have decided to not cross. Ultimately, you want to develop character solutions. Character solutions. Developing your character for growth and safety. James 1:2 talks about enduring temptation. 1 Corinthians 10:13 talks about enduring temptation. It also tells us God won't let us be tempted beyond what we can bear. Now, does that mean we aren't tempted beyond what we can bear? No, it doesn't, obviously, because we blow it, right? But God's not the one doing that to us. Very often we decide to stay there and we walk into the situation. We even create the situation. God gives us a way out. And that doesn't mean that we're actually going to take it. Character is developing that strength, that resilience to be able to face the situation and be able to say no at wherever your line is. And your line might have to be drawn in a different place from someone else's line. If you're an alcoholic, your line is before that first drink. Your line might be, I can't even be in a place that serves alcohol because I can't say no. That might be your line. Your line might be, you're fine with a couple of beers. You're not driving. You're okay. You can even have that little bit of a buzz and you still have the presence of mind to stop. You might be able to, have no problem being alone with a member of the opposite sex, even one that you're attracted to, even with opportunity, because I can say no right here. I'm perfectly okay with that. That's not a problem for me. Those are character solutions for growth and safety. Some people on the opposite sex think saying, I can't go to lunch with a member of the opposite sex. Now, if it's a business rep or a vendor rep or a supplier rep that's of the same sex, I can go have a business lunch with them, but I can't have a business lunch with someone of the opposite sex. For some people, that's their line, and that's their line, That for whatever reason, they can't engage in normal business with a member of the opposite sex without their heart and their mind going there. Where that's all that they're thinking about, or at least that's most of what they're thinking about, or is enough of a distraction from the actual business that they just can't do it. Some can't be alone with a member of the opposite sex in a car, even to take someone home from the hospital, where they've had that kind of rule. Because they just can't do it because that's just where their mind goes. And that if they happen to be taking someone home and her answer is yes or his answer is yes, they know that's it, I'm done. And so they might need to build in these structural solutions. And wouldn't you like to have stronger character than that? Where it's not a defense like Zig Ziglar, Billy Graham. They have a level of purity so they can't even be falsely accused. And that's part of what they're after. To so avoid all appearance of impropriety that there is nothing a woman could even claim that could possibly have any merit. So if someone's out to get them, they have these structural defenses so that no one could say anything. But if you can develop character solutions, you don't have to have such radical defenses. So we actually have to bear up under temptation in order to endure temptation. We also have to get out of there before we fall, to make use of the escape hatch before you fall. The trick, though, is to develop a natural way of thinking to endure whatever temptation you might ordinarily face in your day-to-day life. Because all of us are going to face stuff in our day-to-day life. Now, sometimes when we think in terms of temptation and lust, we kind of think about the sexual context of it all. And it's pretty easy to get through a workday without having sex. Is it easy to get through a workday without noticing any attractive coworkers? A little less so. What about in your personal life? What about things not related to sex? What about things related to acting on emotion? Acting on anger, acting on fear, letting fear hold you back, or having fear drive you to do stuff you otherwise want to do. Hopelessness. Anything. So into this mix, what do? You use love. You use love to overcome temptation. Love your neighbor as yourself is found several places in the Bible. Most directly, you find to love your neighbor as yourself is in Leviticus. It's in Mark. It's in Matthew. It actually says exactly that. Love your neighbor as yourself. Have a healthy love for yourself. Have a healthy love for others. Now, we define love as I want the best for you. I want to be the best for you. And I want you to have transcendent joy. Transcendent joy. By focusing on what is best for you and others, you can resolve temptation, an awful lot of temptation. So when focusing on love, questions are the answer. Focus on love, questions are your answer. If you loved someone, a child, a friend, a romantic partner, and they needed loving support to stick to the right thing, what would you ask to help them? Ask yourself the same questions. Now, I often do it out loud. So when I'm standing in that line and I'm having this particularly odd craving for my white chocolate Reese's peanut butter cups, and I'm looking at that, and I said, you know, if you have that in your kitchen, you will probably end up eating that. So you really just need to decide to not buy that. Are you committed to your diet? Yes. Is it your cheat day? No. Are you allowed to have those on your cheat day? Yes. If you buy those right now, will you likely save them for your cheat day, or will you end up eating them early? Yeah, I'll probably eat them early. So should you have those? No, I shouldn't have them. So what are you going to do? I'm just going to leave them. If I still want them come, and that particular time my cheat day was Thursday. If I still want them on Thursday, I can pick them up on Thursday. Then I can have all I want on Thursday. But I think it was a Saturday night, might even been a Friday night. And then I knew, okay, if I have those sitting around for a week, I'm not going to last a week with those in my kitchen. I'm going to end up eating them. So my point of defense was decide to not buy them now. I can decide to go buy them later if I still want them later. Now, what if I know that they're really not that much of a temptation to me? Kit Kats, I'm fine on. I like them. I can eat way too many of those, too. But they don't get to me quite the same way. If they were Kit Kats, I could have bought them. Then my point of asking those questions would have been day to day if I'm looking at them saying, you know, you can have these on Thursday. What day is it? It's still Monday. Can you have them yet? Nope, can't have them yet. You gonna have them? Nope, of course I'm not gonna have them. It's not Thursday. All right, you're good. And sometimes I'll have these conversations out loud. That way I can listen to my tone of voice. I can listen to my vocabulary. Because what am I going like, I really shouldn't have them. I know I shouldn't. Well, what do I know? My tone of voice is telling me I'm about to have them. Like if something's going on, you know, you're coming up on say a physical relationship line with a boyfriend or girlfriend that you've decided to not cross. And you're getting like, oh, we really shouldn't. Well, what do you know? You can tell from your tone of voice. You're gonna. If you don't get out of there, if you don't get a break, you're gonna. And they say, like, okay, no, we shouldn't. Well, that sounds much more convincing. Like, you know, this is the line we decided. We're not crossing that line to there, we're staying here. Okay, well, now you've convinced me. But you're going to, you know, just, I know we decided. So we really need to stop here. We really should. Okay, now I'm not convinced. The words can be very much the same. And if I'm just thinking in my head, it's easy for me to convince myself, well, I thought all the right things. Well, no, you didn't. The tone of thought was wrong. But questions are the answer. That's why I do it out loud. So love yourself with a healthy love, the kind of healthy love you would have for somebody else. Love others with a healthy love, the kind of love you should have for yourself. Help yourself and others stick to what is right. Make a decision, not just guilt them, emotion versus emotion, but to decide. As you condition that way of thinking, when you condition the do you have a healthy love for yourself? Are you really committed to your health and your fitness goal? Is that going to help you or is that going to hurt you? So what do you choose? And you start to think automatically that way. That's your automatic way of thinking. You don't even have to run through the words anymore. Your brain just does that. It'll help you stick to what is right. As you condition that way of thinking, you find the temptation will fade. Because you automatically go to love instead of go to emotion. You automatically go to choice instead of going to want. And then that temptation has been resolved to a much more modest desire. So you can sit around and eventually, now I could, if Thursday is my cheat day, and I know I can have whatever I want on Thursday, now I can have Reese's Peanut Butter Cups sitting around. Back then I couldn't. Now I could. But that took time. And I had to make some decisions. But I had to condition a way of thinking. So I could condition a way of thinking about how I love the people in my life. I love my students. I love myself. This is who I choose to be. And because this is who I choose to be, these are the choices I make in support of who I choose to be. This is the relationship I want to have. This is the relationship I choose. These are the activities that support the relationship I choose, so I choose to engage in these activities. These are the things that tear down the relationship I choose, and so I choose to get distance when my emotions are ready to get me to engage in the activities that are going to do violence to my relationship. So when you resolve your temptations, you can still have the desires. You can still have that prompt of like, I know some really nasty things I could say right now, but I'm not going to say them. I know some things that might be pleasurable to do, tasty to eat, whatever it is, might help me vent, but that undermines what's important to me. And so I choose not to. Then you've resolved the temptation. You may still recognize the desirability of a thing. I can still be at Cheesecake Factory on a Saturday night if Saturday night's not my cheat day, and I can look at the menu and go, ooh, so many of these look good. Can't have them today, though. But boy, do they look good. Man, if I was here on a Thursday, that's what I would order. And you can enjoy the desirability of something without really being tempted to actually want to break your rules. You can feel the anger, but the words that come out of your mouth are neutral to supportive instead of judgmental and ripping. When I was young, and I talk about this sometimes, when I was young, my mother would ask me a question when I do something stupid. Why would a smart kid like you do such a stupid thing? Well, sometimes she wasn't quite so calm about that. Sometimes she's mad. Now I can imagine in her head she's going, oh, what's wrong with my stupid kid? You brain damage, what's wrong with you? And that might have been what's in her head, but even in her emotional intensity, so you're just such a smart kid. Why would such a smart kid do such a stupid thing? And storm out of the room. What if we could get in that kind of a habit with the people that we love? That even when we're furious, we have so ingrained an edifying way of thinking that temptation to be verbally violent gives way to be verbally affirming even in the middle of our intensity. Instead of going, you're so stupid, what's wrong with you? And you brain damage? Because like, I need this from you. You said you would do it. Please, can we just get this done? What do you need from me so this can happen right? Still intense? Yeah. Anything cruel said? Anything judgmental said? Anything said that can come back to bite you. Now the intensity might not be supportive of the relationship, but I've talked to people who are shocked that in the middle of, in my case, my intensity, that I still don't rip people down. Well, part of that is because that ripping down thing just isn't typically in me in most of my relationships. If that's what I really thought of you, I probably wouldn't have much of a relationship with you. And so the reason it doesn't show up is it's not there. The reason it does show up for so many people is it is there. That is what they really think. And one of the ways you can sometimes tell us what they really think is after they said it, they never take it back. And that's the way most people live. So that's not an indictment on people. We call that normal, but one of the things is normal is also not always good. I learned it from my mother. And she's very much not normal on an issue like that. She did that really well when I was growing up. And when you focus on love, even when you're angry, when you focus on love, even when you're scared, when you focus on love, even when you feel hopeless, when you focus on love when you're tempted, when you focus on love when you catch yourself lusting, and you ask yourself the question in support of a healthy love, so you make a choice in the middle of your temptation you can resolve the temptation. So the prompt might still be there. Even the desire might even still be there. Recognizing the attractiveness of the thing that might normally be a temptation might be there. But you're fine. You don't feel particularly tempted by it. And you can resolve the temptation without having to hide from it. And ultimately, that's part of what I want for you. So that you don't live a life of hiding, and you don't live a life of falling to temptation. Some temptations are easy to recognize as temptations. Some falls are easy to recognize as falls. Some people say, well, I've never murdered anybody. Okay, well, that would be a pretty concrete fall. I've never raped anybody. Yeah, that might be a pretty concrete fall too. But there's all kinds of places, depending wherever your level of maturity is, and your choices, decisions, and commitments are, that might be a fall relative to where you are in your life. What's a fall for me might not be the same as what's a fall for you. Because there might be some things I know different than you. What's a fall for you might not be a fall for me. Because you know some things differently than I do. And we face different things. But so much of it is based upon what's your target? What are you aiming for? Beyond the morality, which hopefully I would like to think is pretty clear, beyond the fundamentals of right and wrong, the choices, your targets, and how you do it. And how do you resolve your temptations so that you don't have to spend your life relying on structural defenses and then allow yourself to indulge in the I would if I could. So if you can, then you will. I've had so many things where I could and I don't. And it's because I do this. Other things, I know I would if I could. So you just don't have them in your kitchen, or whatever your equivalent of that is. And go from there. Does that help? I hope that helps. So this is Pastor Scott Connery, QX Church, on resolving temptation. Next time we're going to talk about coveting. And after that we'll talk about envy. Thank you very much.